I'm just not going to cut. We can just do this here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll just bring us back in and we'll just get back to going. And
Sounds good.
all right. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Locked On MLB Mock Draft Spectacular. I'm Lindsay Crosby, host of Locked On MLB Prospects. He's Jeff Ellis, host of Locked On Guardians. We are alternating picks in the MLB Draft, kind of fill you in, make sure you understand the guidelines here. I am picking odds. Jeff is picking evens. We are picking as if we are this team. So, if you are the Padres, you are taking a prep player. If we are following the rules as far as we know that these teams like to do. We have teased the people. We have teased the Guardians fans yesterday because they picked first here, and they picked 16th, but we stopped at 15 yesterday. So, without further ado, Jeff, who are the Guardians taking?
So the Guardians last year took 19 out of 21 pitchers. Like they were almost as bad as the Angels. And they only took 2 prep talents. It was all college. And I think people have taken the wrong lesson from that. I don't necessarily think that they're heavy on pitching. I think they leaned into the strength of the draft. Right. It's a very analytical team. It is a team that follows models. And I think one of the things that they have learned the past few years is the draft is easier because we have more advanced data. And the more chances you've had to scout guys and the more data they've accumulated through years of college, the easier it is to know if a player is going to be successful or not. The Guardians also know what programs aren't good at development. Like they intentionally target players.
The Royals?
Yes, the Royals, but in college too. Like, going and adding, I don't want to say programs are bad. You can see though, last year they took 3 pitchers from the same college because they know that college, those pitchers didn't develop at all in 3 years. Yeah. And then they work on mechanical changes. And there's other places that do a good job with development, but it's like Rodney Boone is throwing 97 right now. Like who would have guessed that? Trent Denholm added 4 or 5 miles an hour. Like they know where they can go. And, as my co-host, I guess I should bring him up, likes to chime in. We always say cats and babies get us YouTube views. So as I go through and I look at like who is here, who makes sense, you're probably, call me crazy, I think it might be a college bat. And I'm going to throw a name in here that like is not the traditional one, but they have had some success with, this was a team that was at the forefront of age models. 2 years ago, they mined the Cape heavily. I recently on the show had Hunter Gaddis. Hunter Gaddis had a fantastic Cape and had kind of a mediocre junior year. Let's just be honest. It was a disappointing one for a player of his stature because he was playing at a conference he was. He has been awesome this year. Like they can kind of see beyond that. They kind of think if you can hit in the Wood Bat League, we can figure things out. Chase DeLauter was viewed as a top 5 prospect in the fall, almost universally. He's going to be 20 for a long time. Yet he's one of the youngest juniors in this class. He excelled in the Cape. He was pretty good outside of the weekend against Florida State. And that Florida State weekend, you're facing 2 of the most advanced left-handed pitchers just in college baseball to kind of judge a left-handed
and Bryce Hubbard.
Yeah. To judge a left-handed batter because he played poorly against them is like dumb. Like how many left-handed guys played poorly against top left-handed pitching in general? Like you're
left-handed pitching who was really funky. Like they're not traditional lefties.
They're not at all.
I watched them both in person over the weekend.
Yeah.
They're funky guys.
So it's like lefties always have problems on lefties. Like how many guys it takes a few years in the big leagues before they're everyday players. Even if Chase DeLauter is a platoon guy, DeLauter, there's 5-tool potential. It's a team who uses the Cape as a heavy scouting guy who has a lot of data, who likes to take talent that's on the decline. Much like I talked about the Nationals, they'll take a guy who had a higher draft value before the season began. You can go look at a few years ago when they took like Tanner Burns, who didn't necessarily have the top, I believe that was junior year that year for his draft. Now it was the short in 2020, but like he had some concerns and questions. Logan Allen was a guy who like had seen a little bit of his steam falling off. I talked about Hunter Gaddis as a similar one. They can kind of go out and, they collect so much data that if they see something there, again, he fits the age relative model. He's hit with wood bats successfully. And there's athletic traits and tools. So I'm going to go off board, and he's not going to turn 21 until October. So just very young. The concern is health. And of course, the level of competition. The Guardians have also drafted several players out of James Madison over the years. DJ Brown and I want to say Jacob Lee are both a pair of pitchers who nearly got to the big leagues from that program. So they actually have had a recent history there as well.
There you go. I like the pick. I mean, it's something where he was considered to be, like you said, top 5 going into the year. Did not perform up to expectations, but I think that this is a good value pick here. I think this is good to, he's probably, was he probably a top 5 talent in the draft? Not necessarily. Is he as bad as where he's projected to be at the end of the first round? I don't think he is. I think this is probably closer to his true value. I like this.
And I think this might save them a little bit of money. I think they might be able to save that full 25% as well.
Yeah.
Which I think also matters.
Will definitely help you. 17, Philadelphia Phillies. The baseball draft is different from other sports like basketball and NFL because it's really hard to draft for need. It takes these guys so long, for the most part, to get through the minor leagues and get to the big league team that your team looks completely different than it did when you drafted them. So they always say don't draft for need in the MLB draft. I'm going to make an exception here. The Philadelphia Phillies are drafting center fielder Drew Gilbert from Tennessee. Very good batted ball data, matches what they like is the guys with the power. But I think he can stick in center field. I've seen him play now a couple times this season. I think he can stick in center field. So very good hit tool, very good batted ball data. He can stick in center field, good arm, good runner. They've been trying to fill center field for years and haven't done it. And so I think Drew Gilbert's going to be the guy.
I personally love that. I'm a high man on Drew Gilbert in a lot of places. So I mean, I'm all for that. I think he's the best of the Tennessee outfielders. To give you a hot take in terms of the draft, I think he's just a safer prospect.
Yep, I think you're right.
I'm totally, and he's one of those guys. Advanced models also like a lot of the things he does stand out. The Cincinnati Reds. So the Reds last year just kind of were. Is it fair to say passive? Like I liked their draft, but they were another team that kind of just saw what was left on the board and then jumped. And I think if you're looking at what's left on the board, I know I just dinged him in the first episode, but I think, Drew Susac is probably like what is he still doing there? Like a lot of places have him as a top 10 prospect and he's still sitting there at 18. So I think when he is still sitting there, much like, and Matt McClain had injury issues, kind of like DeLauter, who I, talked about the first pick. So that explained why he slid. Susac is a draft eligible sophomore who, I explained why he could slide. But I think, again, this is a team that jumps on what's left. He stands out for what's left, I think, in terms of at least name value at this point in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, it's something where I think he's necessarily the better of the two catchers. I do think that he probably has a better chance of sticking at catcher than Parada does. And yeah, I do like the analysis of they like the names and they're going to see the name following and they're going to jump all over that. I think that's very accurate. I like that. So I actually, funny story for number 19 here, I actually, in one of my early kind of big boards I was filling out, I had Cole Young going to the A's because it kind of fits the model of what they've done. And obviously you took him at 14 to the Mets. You gave him to the Mets. So I'm going to kind of, I also know that they've gone college pitcher recently. They've done that pretty consistently, but I think I see them as needing. They've traded away so many pieces, and they need to reload on some of those pieces. So I think I have them taking a prep pitcher in Brandon Barriera from IMG, the lefty. I know that the Reds were looking at him. I think he's one who you're going to have to pay him. You're going to have to give him the money. I think that if Oakland genuinely wants talent in this system, they've traded for a bunch of prospects, a bunch of higher level guys, but they've got some space for lower level guys. I think Barriera is probably the pick here.
No, he's one of those interesting guys. The other guys I kind of had on my radar was Jet Williams there, just because I feel like, Max Muncy wasn't the biggest guy either. So I know that they don't necessarily, they're not they've never been size kings when it comes to the draft. They are not Dayton Moore over there. I always want to call him Drayton. I don't know why I want to call him Drayton, but
before you get to the Braves pick, though, I just realized before you get to the Braves pick, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Blue Nile. It's the original online jeweler. You can celebrate all of life's special moments, creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you would not find at a traditional jeweler. Whether you're ready to pop the question or celebrating a milestone moment, you can get jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. And if you don't know what you want, well, they've got shoppers. You can call, you can chat, you can tell them your budget, information about the person, what they like. They will give you help. They will give you advice. They will steer you away. If you know that you want to build the engagement ring of her dreams, they have online tools. You can choose the shape, the size, the clarity, the setting style, and then the bench jewelers at Blue Nile will make that one-of-a-kind ring for you. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off a purchase of $500 or more. This does include engagement rings. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured. It ships free, and it arrives in discreet packaging that will not give away what is inside. So shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Okay, so you're picking for the Braves, Jeff.
I don't know. This one was very easy for me, and maybe I'm wrong, but probably going to butcher the name. Connor Prelip of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
It's he's one of those guys, and I talked about this on my podcast as I was talking about rankings. That if Jet Williams was 6'1", he would probably be in the discussion for the top 5 picks. If Connor Prelip was healthy, he'd be in discussion for the top overall pick in this draft. We've had 8 innings, but he's been electric when there's been that opportunity to see him pitch. He misses bats. He's a lefty. We've seen them take Jared Schuster and Ryan Cusick, who can miss bats in recent drafts. They've been a college-heavy team, and for all of their success, they still have a pretty solid minors overall. So as I look at them, it's they can gamble here. They can take that pitcher who, it becomes the first college pitcher off the board at 20, which is one of the latest I can ever recall. But I think the ceiling for him, and he fits what they do, and he just fits their overall approach. And I think I'm sorry, no, he's not. You already had Gabriel. He was at
13. Yeah,
he was 13, but he's the second one off the board. We've had 2 college pitchers in the top 20. That is for me
wild.
Unheard of.
Yeah,
and yeah, I just I think about what they have in place, and they've kind of. We'll see what these younger pitchers can do, like Schuster and Cusick. But yeah, I think he's just to me, I still think he's the top pitcher in this class. So I'll be curious to see where he goes. And he's healthy. Once you draft him, he should be able to pitch this year. So he's going to be one of those guys at the combine.
He threw a bullpen the day before the SEC tournament, and the slider looked fine. And so it's something where he had the injury far enough out where you're probably not going to put him in short season this year, but next year he's fine.
Yeah.
So
he might spend it in instructs and just get some coaching up this year, but he's going to be available for a team to coach up.
Yep. All right. So 21 to the Mariners, a team that seems to fit that designation of teams that use the models, like the model guys, like that college demographic. Somebody who I genuinely had to look a couple times to make sure we had not already taken him, because I'm surprised he's here. Zach Neto, the shortstop from Campbell. The models like him. Campbell, different level of competition, went to the Cape Cod League. Kind of sneaky power for his size. I think versatility-wise, for defense, can fit a couple different places. Kind of fits around this back half of the draft somewhere, but I think Zach Neto's a good pick here for 21 to the Mariners.
No, he's he's often gets mocked to the Guardians. So, and yeah, he's another one of those Cape performers. So he definitely kind of stands out. The Cardinals here, they've been kind of similar to the Guardians. They've done a lot of age-based models. They've gone for a lot of ceiling too with some recent picks. They mixed in Michael McGreevy last year, who was a little bit against some of that ceiling stuff, but going for Jordan Walker was the power hitting age model type. And just looking at my personal board, looking at some rankings, I'm going to go with Jet Williams, who I keep mentioning here. Athletic traits, I don't think he's necessarily age model. No, he's not an age model type of player, but there's a lot of good traits. And it comes down to health. There have been a few minor injuries, dings at points, and it comes down to height. 5'8" is going to scare people off. But we have seen an advancement through the past few years. And again, if he's a 6-foot shortstop, if he's even a 5'11" short, and this is a team that 10. He's top 10 for sure. So, and this is a team that invested in Mason Wynn in the second round, and that has paid off for them. So, I don't think they're necessarily going to be scared off by size. And I mean, it's a team that still, honestly, at the big league level, has been looking for shortstops. Now, again, you drafted Jet Williams. He's not getting there for 4 years, but you can never have enough shortstops in your system.
Absolutely agree. I think this is a good pick for them, simply because it's one of those, like you said, he falls a little bit because of the measurables, but talent-wise, he deserves to be up a little bit higher. 23 for the Blue Jays. This is a team, just kind of from what I feel like, it's like high school bats and college arms is like, this is the thing.
And the bloodlines.
And the bloodlines. They like the bloodlines, which, we've already taken a Holiday. We've already taken a Jones, a Crawford. A lot of these guys are gone. I'm not going to do a more. I'm not putting more here. That's not the kind of bloodline I'm talking about. So I'm going to go with that college arm thing. Kind of surprised that he's still here, but dude they're an analytical team. They're a model team as well. A dude that just blows up the analytics when it comes to his numbers. I watched him pitch a little bit today. Connor Yerpy from Oregon State. Fun note, I've been saying his name wrong all spring. I've been saying Herpe. I was trying way too hard. It's Cooper Yerpy. But Cooper Yerpy, lefty for Oregon State, going 23 to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, no, he's interesting from the he's going to cause big debates because being a bit of a cross-body thrower, there are going to be teams who just think, okay, he's only a reliever. Mm-hmm. And I know I've had people on my Twitter being like, he's a top 10 pick. He's a top 15 pick. I'm like, you have to understand there are teams who are not going to even consider him a first rounder. So it's interesting to see where he goes. I could even see him going to St. Louis. I think they're a team that doesn't have as big of an issue with that, but he's going to be a divisive player. Speaking of divisiveness, we have Boston. And Boston, Nick York, we all made fun of, and that's worked out. Marcelo Mayer was not made fun of. That was clearly the guy there. Splitting the difference, maybe Henry Bolt, outfielder from Palo Alto, California, who's been one of the biggest helium guys this spring. Big, athletic. We talk about that Elite Six. His athleticism is right there with, those players, with the Jet Williams, with all the high-end prep guys. He might be athletically as good as Green and Jones. He is one of the hottest names right now when you talk to people. It is funny because it's always like, okay, so what have you heard on Bolt? I get that. It's one of the top 3 questions I get because he is that helium player. Yeah. But with Boston, kind of liking guys a little under the radar and also going for up the middle ceiling. The one knock I would say is when you look at Mayer and York, those are guys who are really good in terms of swing and approach, and that's not necessarily Bolt. Bolt is high risk. Yeah. He could be in play for Colorado. He could be anywhere on this board. So I'm putting him here, but just know that when we're talking in a month, we might be talking about him as a top 10 pick.
Things will change. That's the only thing that's constant is things will change. I like that climb. I like that they've got the space to do something like that. The Yankees at 25. This one's tough. So, the one hand, there's a couple different options here. So, Jordan Beck is still on the board, outfielder from Tennessee. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be the guy. The Yankees are really big on analytics. Some of the analytics I've seen don't necessarily love Beck. I think the maximum troll selection is Kumar Rocker right here. Just one of those the Mets didn't sign him, so the Yankees draft him and sign him. I think that
wouldn't be a bad value though.
Would not be a bad value at all. But I think because they've been so analytical and this is kind of the type for the Yankees now. They have the tallest outfield in baseball when everybody's healthy. Spencer Jones from Vanderbilt. He's come off the Tommy John. Things have kind of clicked for him. He's got really good exit velos, covers the zone really well. Above average runner, can play all three spots. And again, he's also like 6'7", and he just kind of fits in. The Yankees understand what to do with that physical profile. It's not something you see every day. They understand what to do with that. They understand how to make him fit. I'd like Spencer Jones to the Yankees. Probably not going to be what actually happens, but just a pick that I like.
I liked him as a left-handed pitcher out of high school. I'm going all the way as a left-handed pitcher out of high school. So the Chicago White Sox are on deck. Chicago White Sox are a team that allowed me to make my name as a draft analyst. So if you're not familiar with this story, 2 years in a row, my way too early mock draft correctly predicted who the Chicago White Sox would take when they were picking the top five. I got Madrigal and I got Vaughn correctly picked to them. And then, so they also drafted very similar to my board. They had been the college team until last year. And then last year, they went back-to-back prep players with Colson Montgomery and Wes Kath. I think the prep hitter to watch this year with that pick is Tucker Toman, the third baseman from South Carolina, whose dad was a longtime college coach, who's also like a really good athlete. I was over pulling up like his perfect game data, where it's like exit velocity was 97th in the class. His arm was 97th for the position. His 60-yard dash was under 7. So it's not like necessarily great there. It's still a solid number, but he's a really good athlete, but he's also the your prototypical son of a coach, knows how to hit, knows how the zone, good approach, fits with that Colson Montgomery, Wes Kath type, but he's a little more athletic than them. There's a chance that he could be, a third baseman. I think he's a shortstop right now, could maybe project as an outfielder. I think he fits what they have kind of looked at the past few years and what they've actually, not last few years, I should say, just specifically last year. And he's like another riser.
Yeah. He's a not helium, but he is rising, just kind of quickly. I do like the fit. This very much, if you could, this feels like a Tony La Russa thing. Like he would be really appreciative of this pick because he likes the coach's son kind of character profile thing. Before we get into the Brewers pick, we've got Brewers, Astros, Rays, and Giants left real quick. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 from Athletic Greens because I have celiac disease. And so I struggle with absorbing nutrients, can't eat gluten. And I was taking a bunch of supplements and different things like that to try to get all of the nutrition that I needed. Well, with AG1, one scoop, you get 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics. It's lifestyle free. It's gluten free for me, but it's dairy free. It's vegan. It's paleo. It's keto. Whatever thing you're on, they can take care of it. But less than 1 gram of sugar, no chemicals, no artificial anything. So it works out well for you. So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of their immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting stats and your sports info. You can get the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including the NBA Finals, the hockey finals, Major League Baseball, obviously, fighting news, MMA, UFC, boxing. You can get College World Series odds right now. So obviously a lot of the guys we're talking about are still playing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, live betting, esports, and more. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action because BetOnline is where the game starts. Okay, so 27 to the Brewers. Kind of some of the things that I've heard about. I think the groupings that they would like is they like some of the college outfielders and college pitchers that kind of that same developmental deal that you talked about earlier that have some room to build a little bit still and grow. I think they probably would have been the team to jump on Chase DeLauter if he was still here. he's gone. So I think I've got a guy like a Dylan Beavers from Cal. Still some development to do, but massive exit velocities, like tons of bat to ball skills. Little streaky at the plate sometimes, but I think when everything clicks, if everything works, you can easily project him into something like a top 10 value. And so, as long as they trust their development, they trust their analytical stuff, I think that they can see the upside of him and appreciate the value of getting him later in the draft. So, outfielder Dylan Beavers of Cal, who should have gone to Oregon State and played for the Beavers, would have made a lot more sense.
No, agreed. It would have made more sense for him. So we move on to the Houston Astros, who are choosing to forfeit this selection to just kidding. I'm sure this is gonna get at least one downvote for that joke. So Houston, the last 2 years, without a high pick, has gone prep talent with Alex Santos and then Tyler Whitaker. Both players that I mean, Whitaker in particular I thought was like a second round talent. Before that, they were definitely more of a college team. When we look at like the Seth Beers, the Jeremy Peñas, 2019 was Corey Lee. So they could go anywhere. So I had a theory that they overdraft players in the first round to inflate value to then make them better trade assets later, because once a guy is a first rounder, they're always a first rounder. So that's kind of a thing. Like Corey Lee was an overdraft. Seth Beer was one of those guys that was overdrafted, and then they set him up to succeed. So they put him in a situation where his numbers would be good by putting him against lesser competition, which then made him a legit trade asset to Arizona. It's the same thing. Like you go look at the players in that Arizona deal in particular, they definitely seem to kind of manipulate the system to increase overall perceived value.
Okay.
If you want to increase overall perceived value, Kumar Rocker would make the most sense, right?
Ooh, yeah.
If you want to get a college player who you could put up against weaker competition and really excel and get people excited that like he's back, we got a top 10 pick at 28 and have someone who is a massive trade asset for next year or this offseason, which they could look to do, the quickest way to increase value on this pick here is to draft Kumar Rocker.
And save a little bit of money, because he's not going to want to be out for 2 years.
Yes.
He can't go to college.
If you are him, who, there's arguments about his development being a little stalled at Vandy and just about his overall health. If you're making a short list of the top teams in terms of pitcher development, it's the Brewers, it's the Astros, it's the Guardians, it's the Rays, right? Those are the four that come to mind. So he might also consider it an advantageous position to go to one of the top developmental programs in general to continue to apply his trade.
Yeah. I like the pick here. I'm glad he went off the board finally. I think probably in real life he'll go earlier than we had him, but I think this is something where obviously we're working off limited information. He's had one start. And then two, it just takes one team. It just takes one team to decide to go ahead and pull the trigger and jump on it.